Department, here to make sure everybody's safe and things go well. Thank you for being here, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We've got, John
Kraft,
Edgar County.
Watchdogs.
Yes, sir. And then a couple of our residents and are here tonight. If everybody can take a few minutes to read over the previous minutes, and someone can motion to approve or not approve or correct or what have you.
I have a question when we're done with the past minutes.
Yeah, a question about the minutes?
Yeah.
What is it?
Do we have a final bill of sale from our attorney, Eileen, of the sale of the property next to Ralph? We do have that.
Yes, you were here.
No, we didn't. I've never seen a bill of sale.
Okay.
Did you have something that shows us that it's completely done?
Yes.
Can you show that to us now?
Not right now.
Oh, okay, you won't show us now?
We're,
Oh, okay. Will we see that now?
they've asked for all of that information, and we'll present that to him.
I was asking for the board members. We haven't seen,
You have that anywhere.
we haven't seen anything.
Thank you. It's right here. I can show it to you after the meeting if you'd like, or I can pass it around at some other point.
Any errors and corrections on the minutes?
Yeah, anybody want to make a motion or correct? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to have it corrected that little neighbor next to David Hudson, her name is Kelly Johnson.
Okay, I did
What
not
is
have
it?
her name that night.
Huh?
She didn't have her name that night. Okay, we can note that and correct it. Anything else?
No, not that I know.
Okay. We can't move on until someone makes a motion.
Huh?
A motion to approve it, the notes.
I'll second. Okay. All right. Next up, We have bills.
Let's see our bills. Let's see. Do you want to read off the pay estimates that we've gotten? Or,
They're noted on here.
no, they're not on the list. Those are supposed to be.
They're not on the list.
Yeah, they're supposed to be separate.
I don't know, but I just, in the sake of being complete, sure, let's go ahead and read them all off.
Okay. Then we received checks and pay estimates. This is for the water main project for draw number 3, $41,391.45. Number 4 was $36,873.90. Number 5 was $48,778.47. Number 6 was $48,324.96. Number 7, the pay draw is in, but the check has not been received yet for $20,100.15.
I'd like to add that those get approved separately. We can't obviously not approve them because this is federal money that's coming in that we have to turn around and write checks for these exact amounts, but just so that it's noted in the minutes, if somebody can approve those amounts with a motion, we'll get that noted in the minutes.
Have we already paid one?
We have the first set that we did, but
The 43,000?
the 41, no, not yet. That check has not gone out yet. We have that check in hand, but you deposited that today, right?
No,
Okay,
deposited yesterday.
okay. At any rate, these are the amounts that they will be sending that we have to turn around and write checks for, so. The only reason I have them on here is just so that they can be listed and noted in the minutes.
Is there paperwork that shows these bills?
What's that?
Is there paperwork that shows the amount of these bills that we're paying is actually going to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's emails from the engineering firm that shows from the state what those checks are going to be and what needs to be sent out.
Well, that was in the minutes last month, wasn't it?
Correct.
For draw number 1 and number 2.
Pardon me?
For the first one and the second one, number 1, number 2.
If anything, we're going to be overly complete with the documentation, so just let's do it that way.
Okay.
And all this money's coming out of that grant that we got? Is that what we're paying?
Yes, the one that we've been, yes,
Okay, all right.
yes. The $500,000 grant.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Pay the bills. I'll second it.
Roll call.
Gary,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jared.
Yes.
Okay, now we can move on with the other regular bills.
Short list this time. Nicor, gas bill for 101 South Main for January 19th through February 17th, $63.63, or $62.83. Ameren's bill for the park for January 10th through February 8th, $34.09. J.C.'s Heating and Plumbing for a hall garage, there was no heat, $79. Ameren's for 104 South Main, which is the water well, $220.33 for the water fund. Ameren's for 103 South Main, which is City Hall, for January 10th through February 8th, $74.15. Premier Co-op for fuel for the plow on February 17th, $54.30. MCS, the internet service for March, $50. EJ Waters, postage and credit card fees for January, $129.50. EJ Waters for the January billings, $157.23. Tyler Martin's salary, $600. Hawkins for it's a date of 2/18/21 for chemicals for the water plant, $155.09. 11 bills presented.
Who's that for?
Hawkins Water
Hawkins.
Bill.
That one was, just came in, so it was late. It would need to be added there.
What's that?
That would need, the Hawkins would need to be added on your list.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. For chlorine or whatever.
Yeah.
For water chemicals?
Your water chemicals.
Better wants it about the chlorine.
What's her name?
Hawkins.
Yeah.
Yeah, what they do, $105.09.
Anybody have any questions? If not,
How much was it,
$155.09,
for the chlorine?
right.
All right, I make a motion, we pay the bills.
motion to draw on various accounts and pay all bills, technically. That's the way I was
Okay,
told to do it.
so I gotta say it again.
Make
I make a motion to draw
on various accounts.
on various accounts to pay the bills.
No, we never done that. Shouldn't do it right this time.
Okay.
I don't know that there's a difference, but, you know.
It's just more formal.
We'll need another roll call.
Okay. Gary,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next up, Miss Joanne, your treasurer's report. Let us know what's going on with that.
Okay, Bank of Gibson City General Fund, we've got $188,047. Heartland General Fund, $100,099.60. Water Fund, $32,321.10. And Motor Fuel Fund, we've got $80,295.03.
I got a question on the treasury report. There's no cafe.
I'm sorry?
How come there's no cafe on this?
Because the cafe rent was handed to me on afternoon of February 27th, which is Saturday. The bank was closed. It shows the first day on March as being put into the bank
Because it's still part,
for February.
so it's not part of the treasury.
This is all for what's come in on February, not March. Technically, bank was already closed, so bank is already done for the month. So it will show next month on the March, but it is February's payment.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tyler Martin, our water and superintendent, could not be here tonight. He didn't have a report per se. We still have yet to define what that report should entail. We can bring that up at a future meeting. We're not going to have time to discuss that tonight, but he did want me to to relay that the samples were good for last month, according to EPA. Appreciates everyone in the village and the board for running extra water so that our tower would not freeze. That went way better than I expected. I expected serious problems with that, and there were none, so I was pretty worried most of the time about that, so that's all he had. Okay, so here we are, old business. I want to just take a brief moment to reiterate a couple things. I'm not trying to pontificate or bore anybody and talk about stuff that we've already talked about, but we're not going to let this meeting devolve in some sort of personal attack or anything else. We're here to conduct village business, and that's exactly what we're going to do. It's a little frustrating, and I've mentioned that in the past too, that everybody here, every single board member, the treasurer, the clerk, myself, as far as I'm concerned, this is basically volunteer work. It's not like we're getting paid a bunch of money to do this. So to have everyone's time occupied by, call it whatever you want, petty, small issues that are done not out of concern but out of maliciousness or anything else, any other reason, it's kind of poor judgment on everybody's part. We have a $1 million water main project going on right now that requires a lot of attention and a lot of hours by me and other people on this board. We have a water tower that is crumbling and needs attention, and I have no idea where that money is going to come from. Those are the serious issues. Not some of the other stuff that's getting drugged through here. They're all issues and they're all important, and we need to talk about all of it. But for the amount of time that we have as individual people that are helping this town, we need to be focusing on the things that we can do something about. Not worrying about whose shed's sticking out 2 foot into the alley, and not worrying about who did this or who hopped into the tractor and pushed up the brush pile. There's no way that anybody's going to be able to argue to me that that's something worthy of discussing in a meeting when we have no time outside of our job, sometimes our 2 jobs, to do this stuff. I was asked to do this, and I'm doing it. Do I want to? Most days I don't. But I would be doing an extreme disservice if I were to walk out that door right now and leave all of this other stuff in the lap of somebody else that has no clue what's going on. So we can focus on stuff that matters, or we can fight. And I don't want to do that. So we're going to have a good meeting, and we're going to talk about things that are important and things that matter. If you have a complaint, you can take 5 minutes of personal privilege and you can complain. I'm not here to shut anybody up, silence anybody, do anything of the sort. Complain all you want. If you have something that did not make it on this agenda and you want it addressed, you can voice that to the board. They have the power, not me. And they can decide if that goes on to a future agenda or not. And that's that. I'm not going to talk any more about that. So here's the items that we need to talk about tonight. When we're done getting through our business, if anybody has further issues that they need to speak out about, feel free. I'd like comments to be held if possible from visitors until we kind of wrapped up what we need to wrap up. And if you have issues from residents or any other concerns, we'd be happy to hear that. We're a small town, and that's what we're here for. And if there's problems, we want to fix them. But there is a kind of a limit on what we can do in one meeting. So with that said, old business. We talked about the abandoned house across the street from me. I don't know the address. I never know the address because it's been abandoned so long. Talked to Ellen Lee. I've made a couple of attempts to contact the company that actually owns that property. And they will not budge from $12,000. Like I said before, it will cost us at least $10,000 to demolish that. So I'm not getting anywhere with them. Ellen is going to first send a letter asking them to clean it up, and then it'll go a step further, and then a step further. My hope is that it will end in a lien on that property, or some kind of, that they maybe file some kind of quit claim deed, she called it. I'm not sure what that is, but that would allow us to maybe take over that property for a fraction of what they're asking it for, at which point you guys can decide if we want to buy it and pay to have it demolished. So that's where we're at with that.
I got a question on it.
Yes.
Why would the city want, I mean, I understand you got a place, that's eyesore, it's an
Sure.
eyesore town.
No, it's more than an eyesore.
It's not being done by the people that own it. and basically sitting on it. Why would the city want to acquire a piece of property to have tore down and have to pay physical taxes on?
Because it's a health hazard, it's full of animals. The garage, hold on, the garage in the back, if you care to see the pictures, is stacked from bottom to top with trash. There's a troop of cats living in it right now, as well as raccoons and other things. It stinks, and it looks terrible. So yes, I would submit to you that it would be money well spent if the village paid $10,000 to have that place torn down. But again, that's not my decision. That's your decision, Gary's, Roseanne's, Ryan's, Mary's, and Ralph's. But that's my reasoning. It's a health hazard, absolutely 100%.
Then the city would basically be paying on it, you know, for the remainder of it as they own it. They should be paying tax, city tax.
We would pay, yeah, and they're pretty
Taxes.
minimal.
Okay,
I have their tax bill here as well.
understand.
That address is Maple Street. It's on that
Maybe,
tax
that's
bill.
right.
It's on that tax bill.
So yeah, we'd have to pay taxes on a lot, just like we did the other lots that we own. It's no different, but would you rather, have that to stare at, or would you rather pay a couple $100 a year in taxes?
It could be money, it could be going towards our new water route tower.
Yeah, it could. You're right. You're absolutely right. It could. So what taxes would be on a lot like that is roughly a couple $1,000s a year at the most. That's not going to make a dent in what we're going to have to pay to get that water tower sandblasted and painted. And you should know that because you were here when we got that quoted the last time, and it was upwards of $200,000. So
I thought EJ was going to apply for a grant
to
hopefully get the repairs done to that point.
are we going to apply for a grant?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. We would pursue that, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if a grant for it exists.
Oh, I thought there was, since we're doing the water mains.
No, I don't think you can
There's not
buy
one
for,
for the water tower.
I'm not sure, but I don't think you
Jerry,
can get it for just the
you remember
water tower
right,
alone.
if you remember right, the reason we're doing water mains was because the entire village filled out a, what do you call it? When you go around and you get signatures, petition
Yeah.
to not paint the water tower and question that decision. Why were we spending $250,000 to paint a water tower when we have pipes in the ground from 1953? Valid point. So what did we do? We went and got a grant to replace the pipes. So one step at a time. So yes, we do have to tackle that, and that's exactly what I'm talking about when I talked about at the beginning of the meeting. That's a serious problem, and that's stuff that we have to pursue, but I can only do so much. I'm in the middle of a huge construction project that I get questioned and called about daily to keep up with, and that's not something that we've tackled yet. That will be on the next agenda to discuss what we're going to do and what we can do and what opportunities and avenues we have to get that money, because it ain't going to come out of our accounts. We won't have anything left.
I understand.
So that's where we're at with that. As far as your argument about, somehow that's going to affect our ability to get the tower painted because we're paying taxes on an extra piece of property,
I figured it'd be money saved.
it would be money saved. But we also have to look out for the residents of the community and not have obvious health hazards. It may not be a concern to you. It's not across the street from your house, but it's still there. But it is an issue, and that's where we're at on that. So I'm pursuing that with the approval of the board. If anybody at any point has an inclination that we should not do that, then speak up and I'll quit pursuing that with Ellen. But that's what you guys have asked for, so that's what I'm doing.
Well, do you think that we should wait to pursue it till we find out how our money is gonna be? I mean, like a month.
Are you asking my opinion? No, I don't, because I think what she's going to do, it takes a long time. So she has to send a letter to first ask them, hey, you guys need to clean this up, please. The second step would be to impose some fines, and if they don't do anything then she's going to pursue a lien. If it gets to that point, yeah, absolutely. I think we should sit down and make a decision, hey, do we want to do this because we're going to own this house pretty shortly. And at that point, we can either back off or we can continue. It's just as simple as that. Yes?
If we slap enough liens against that property, though, we can own it without actually having to buy it then.
Yes, but Jared's point is that we will have to pay, and I'm basing this estimate off of that building that we've already done, that cost $14,000 to do it. I'm guessing that one would cost 10 at the least
Yeah.
to do, so.
Plus, we've been mowing it, and now there's a bunch of
No.
broken tree branches all over it.
I've been,
Garage had a basement, though, and
not,
very high.
there's no we. I've been out there probably 15 hours this summer cleaning that place.
That's what I'm saying, I mean, as the town, somebody's been in the town taking care of it before.
Oh, I have, I'm not getting paid for it.
Right, that's what I'm saying, that they need to be getting, the owners should be getting billed for
That's
that
right.
kind of stuff.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, and if they're only asking 12,000, it won't take very long for the liens to outweigh that then.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're gonna have to surrender it, or pay it.
So I'm going to continue to pursue that, and if we get to the point where we have to make a decision on whether or not we want to buy it or do whatever, then, or take possession of it, then we'll do that then. So just wanted to let you guys know what's going on with that. Second order of business, Cintas. These were the folks that came in here and gave us rugs and all kinds of stuff, and they kept bringing stuff, and the bill kept going more and more. Tried to call them, I don't know if I need to reiterate this because we talked about it multiple times. Tried to call them a bunch of times to get their stuff picked up, and they never did. They wouldn't return calls. Anyway, they charged us $2,000 something to buy out the contract. You guys voted no, we're not going to pay you a dime. I got a call from their lawyer 3 weeks ago asking me what we were going to do with that, and I told them the same thing. I said, we're not going to pay anything. I said, I can present to the board that we pay for the amount of days from when we stopped paying the bill, which totaled $888.16. So I'm asking you guys to make a decision. Do we want to continue to not pay them and get drugged to court, possibly, or do we want to pay them $888.16, settle it, and be done with it? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I'm assuming that you did not, this board did not sign that contract. It was signed several years ago.
I brought that up. He claims, this is their attorney. I'm not an attorney, I don't know. I hesitate to get Ellen Lee involved in that and acquire and accrue way more than $888 to resolve the issue with their attorney. But your answer is...
Well, my thoughts are maybe you should ask her if this board did not approve it and it was done on Russell's watch, are we responsible
the
for it?
village as an entity approved that.
Okay.
There was a board on when Russell took that contract.
We
on it
can say
sometime.
that I wasn't here and you weren't here and everybody wasn't here, and that's just, what are you gonna do? I mean,
Right.
I don't wanna pay it either, but it's either we can do that or we can.
They've agreed to
They have absolutely agreed to that
They have.
final amount. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple decision. It's either we agree to pay it or we don't. And I'm just telling you what may or may not happen if we don't. I think the expense of any kind of legal advice from Ellen Lee or going to court about a $800 bill is gonna, I don't think it makes any sense. That's just my opinion.
makes more sense just to pay it if they're willing to cut their losses. And we had the rugs, we had the stuff for that amount of time. Why not
We
just
did.
pay it?
All we're doing is just paying for the amount of days that we had the stuff in the.
I would recommend paying it.
Yeah, might as well.
Well, I can't make that decision here,
Right.
so.
Make a motion.
I would make a motion to pay Cintas the payoff, the $888.16.
16.
Thank you. Just to get this paid off and get it off our plates.
Okay.
Second that.
Okay. Roll call and let the minutes show that we agreed to pay the $888.16.
Gary,
Yes, Pat.
Ralph,
Yes.
Roseanne,
Yes, pay it.
Mary,
Yes,
Jared,
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.
What's court cost?
Yeah, I think that would be a great, way to spend money.
No, and at least that's off our back though, because that was a monthly expense too. That was kind of outrageous.
We ready to move on? You get that noted down? Okay, sorry, if I go too fast, just holler. Real quick, this is one of the issues I really didn't want to talk about, but I told Mr. Holmes that we would put this on the agenda per his request. During the snowstorm, and I'll make this as quick as possible because I really don't want to discuss this, but we can discuss it. During the snowstorm, you guys all remember that? I'm assuming it was just a few weeks ago and it was pretty nasty. Mr. Ralph had just gotten out of the hospital, and Ed Godsey, he was generally taking care of a lot of the plowing in his 23 years, was also in questionable health. I was not comfortable calling him to ask him. I got a call from Mr. Hudson offering his services to plow using his own equipment, to which I agreed because it needed to be done right now, right that second. Dave got out and plowed, no problem. About an hour later, I called Ed to let him know and said, hey, look, I got Dave plowing. I wasn't real comfortable calling you. Ed's been fighting some pretty serious health issues, and I wasn't comfortable asking him. But anyway, I said, Dave's out taking care of the plowing, and I just want to see how you were feeling, et cetera, et cetera. And thank you again for plowing. Ed said, no, I'm feeling great. As a matter of fact, he said, if it makes it easier on you, I can take care of the plowing at any point. I've done it for 23 years. I know the village equipment, and I know when it needs to be done and when, et cetera. That took a lot off my plate, believe it or not, because I don't want to have to worry about who's going to do the plowing and who's not. And in the past, when we've been on the board, it's usually been a bunch of guys that were familiar with the equipment. So there was never a question. It was always somebody's just going to go hop in the truck and plow, right? It's not like that today. We have very few people that even care about contributing and hopping in that truck and plowing. So I said, yep, Ed, that'd be great. That's one less thing I got to think about. I called Dave back, and Dave, I apologize if you were still plowing when I called Ed, and when he jumped in there, I didn't intend for that. And that's
3 times in that snowstorm.
That's a different issue. So if you were still plowing, I thought you were done, but regardless. Ed apparently hopped in the truck, and I asked Ed to go clear out a couple of houses where people were having issues getting stuck in. And I told Dave, I told you, I said, hey, Ed's going to take care of the plowing. If at some point he cannot do it, he'll let me know, and I will call whoever, Dave, Ralph, once he's better, whatever. Anyway, Jared had an issue with that because he saw Ed plowing the street and questioned me about why Ed was doing that. At which point I told Mr. Holmes that I didn't need his permission to ask Ed to plow. Not in the middle of a snowstorm, not at other time as far as I'm concerned, but definitely not in the middle of a snowstorm, and that we weren't going to wait for another board meeting to decide who is going to plow. I understand where he's coming from. You know, he started talking about Ed wasting fuel, et cetera, and that sort of thing, but that's not the case. I didn't think it was really an issue that needed to even be discussed at that point, but here we are. So I guess my question is, what's the problem with Ed plowing the snow? And why was that an issue? I'm unclear.
He wasn't the only one that was plowing snow. Actually, I believe the tractor was out too, and I think you were in the tractor. Okay, so he was out plowing, and I think it was how you handled the situation. I was simply asking a question, but as we were sitting there texting back and forth, and I got all that information, you told me I was bullying you or bullying the board because I was simply asking a question. And then you asked me to resign my post effective immediately because I was simply just asking why somebody was plowing. And
Can I interrupt you there real quick?
Oh yeah, sure can. Go ahead.
At no point did I ask you to resign your post. What I said was, quote, I'll read it. This is what I didn't want to do. Okay? This is what I didn't want to do. What I said to you, Jared, was that number one, you have until April and you're no longer a board member. If this is such a big deal to you, why don't you just resign earlier? I questioned you that. I didn't tell you to resign or do anything of the sort. I said, why don't you just quit if it's that big a deal? Let me bring up something else. I don't mind being questioned, but you have a very certain abrasive way of doing things. Stop right there. Just hang on a second. I'm going to let you speak. I really will. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to fight with anybody. We were in the middle of a snowstorm, and I'm trying to make the best decision that I can about who needs to plow. That's number one. Secondly, Dave has never once submitted insurance information to Gloria. So in retrospect, he shouldn't have been plowing in the first place, and I could have gotten in trouble had he hit something. That's number two. And again, I was astounded that I was being questioned about having one of our residents go out and plow the snow in the first place, because again, you can't explain to me what the issue is with that and why that's a problem.
He was using his own equipment. He wasn't even using the
Who was using his own equipment?
Dave was.
He still has to submit insurance information to be able to do that.
He submitted his driver's license and everything.
Good. I have no proof that he's insured.
So if he didn't show insurance, why would you even ask him to do it in the first place?
He asked me, and that was a mistake on my
Because you were
part.
asking for help. Even the last.
No, I wasn't asking
Yes,
for
you
help.
was.
He called me and
Yes,
asked me
you
if I
was.
needed help, and I said, yes, I do.
Last meeting, you said there's anybody that can help us with it. I said
Okay,
I can help.
yeah.
Dave said he could
And
help.
he called.
And you didn't ask for insurance at that time, but you called him out and asked him to go ahead and get started.
That's right, I did.
So that'd be like me going on a job and somebody telling me not to do it no more because I already got started.
So what's the problem? Again, I'm going to ask you the same question over again. What is the issue that you have with Ed plowing, and why was that not a decision that I
Because he
could
had
make?
health problems. Why is he doing the truck? What if he crashes? You got insurance information on him?
Ed stated to me that he did not, and that he was perfectly capable to do it.
You said
and
before
was
you
happy to
started
do
this
it.
that he had health problems and he shouldn't have been.
No, you're not listening to what I'm saying. I personally had questions about calling him because I wasn't certain about his health condition. He had recent health problems, and I didn't want to bother him with the snow plowing. So when Dave called me and said, hey, you want me to go out and plow? I jumped on it. I said, yeah, absolutely. Again, and you listen to the whole story, after I thought Dave was done plowing, I called Ed and to ask how he was doing and how he was feeling, and explained to him that I had Dave go out and do it, and explained to Ed why I didn't call him in the first place. And Ed, at that point, told me that he's perfectly capable of doing it. Now, as the village president, you're right. I don't have power to do anything. But there's things that happen in between meetings that have to be decided upon that can't wait for a board meeting.
So you made that decision?
Absolutely. I made that decision, absolutely, and I stand by it, and I would do it again.
All right,
I don't need to call you and ask you, is it okay for me to have Ed plow?
all right.
Okay? Yes, sir. Can we just have all questions for the,
That's this question. If Ed's doing it, how come Ed don't do the alleys? He didn't do mine, Gary Holtzclaw, and I couldn't get out. Dave had to come down and plow us out, because nobody plows our alley.
okay, well, nobody, I can't answer that question because I can only tell you that Ed's plowed these streets for 23 plus years and he knows which ones need to be done. Again, if your alley didn't get plowed, that's something you can call me and I'll have them come plow your alley if it's that, if it's a problem. I had 5 or 6 residents ask me to plow their personal places because they couldn't get out. Let me explain something that we're missing out here. We are a small town. We're here for the people of the village. When people have a problem, you could be a village president that says, no, I'm not going to plow out your driveway. You can stay stuck in there.
One, when they're plowing, you don't plow in handicapped people that can't get out. Mrs. Jones couldn't get out because they plowed her shut.
Okay?
I couldn't get out to go to the VA because they plowed me shut.
So these are the first time I'm hearing things of this. This is the first time. And it's a
Everybody
little
knows
bit,
where the handicapped people live.
it's a little bit after the fact.
And Gary needed to get out.
So do
He
you
can't
think
walk.
Dave Hudson knows where the handicapped people live
Sure
better
does,
than Ed?
mine did, Mrs.
Okay.
Jones.
That's fine. But the question still remains. Nobody, I have yet to get a solid answer on why it's not okay for me to call Ed to plow the streets and why that is not a decision that I can make. I take issue with that. And the fact that it's on this agenda being discussed right now is absurd and is a waste of everyone's time. And if you guys don't think it is a waste of time, then speak up and make a decision on who's going to plow the streets.
If Ed's plowing, here's the thing that has to be done. They have to have them get rid of that damn car at the end of that alley, because somebody's gonna hit it. And I'm surprised Ed ain't hit it plowing. It's out in the street, they need to move the damn thing out of there, because they have no insurance. They haven't moved that for over a year. And they got sitting out there, and Dave can tell you, he can't even come out of the alley with a plow on, because the car's in, nobody can go down there.
Sure, is this the car that was somebody
gold.
complained about
Yeah,
back when? Yeah.
it's Kelly's, and they don't do nothing with it.
Okay.
And Sylvie called down there, because the guy wanted to buy it, and they won't sell it. So they're fixing it.
Okay, all right, well, let's bring it back to, I get that, and I understand that those kind of issues exist and people need to move their cars. And, yes, sir.
So I think the biggest issue is that it was during the middle of a snowstorm, and somebody was already hired to do it, which was me.
You weren't hired to do anything.
But it was discussed at the meeting, at several meetings prior.
Yes.
Because we didn't know whether Ed or yourself was gonna be able to do it. It was discussed here at this meeting, and then that's when Jared volunteered and I volunteered to do it. And that during the middle of doing it, you decided to switch. I think that's the biggest issue.
Well, if that's what happened, then that was unintentional, first of all. Secondly, nothing was decided that we're going to hire Dave to do the plowing. Your services were volunteered during a meeting to which we all said, okay, great, that's perfect. The more people that we have available to plow, the better. The only thing I'm telling you is that you plowed. You asked me to plow. I said, go for it. I appreciate the help. I thought you were done. I told Ed from here on out, going forward, let's go with your plan. You just go out and plow when it needs plowed. That's one less decision I've got to make when I'm at work or when I'm somewhere else. And if there comes a point in time where he can't plow, he'll let me know. And I'll call you, or I'll call Ralph, or I'll call somebody else, whatever, problem solved.
So if you have minimal people to plow, and you do that to somebody who volunteered their truck and their gas, and you tell them to stop, how many people are gonna get to volunteer? Because nobody's gonna volunteer if you do that to somebody.
I'm not asking for him to volunteer his truck and his fuel. He needs to submit his time and the cost of his fuel just like anybody else.
But he was doing a volunteer, he wasn't using.
Okay, fine.
He
That's
wasn't
fine.
using city
That's fine.
equipment. city
Still,
Gas.
again, at the end of the day, what's the problem that you have and what do you want to do to correct it?
You said you don't have enough people to volunteer. You got volunteers, but you're not utilizing your
Jared?
volunteers. You're basically telling them to start a job and just quit doing it.
No, that was not the intent. I did not ask him to start a job and then to quit doing it. I assumed that he was finished doing it. I didn't, and then, and I talked to Ed, from here on out, you take care of the plowing. And I called you back, Dave, immediately after I talked to Ed, and I told you the exact same thing that I'm telling this board right now. I said, Ed will take care of the plowing from here on out. If he cannot, I will call you or I will call Ralph.
Your exact words, that Ed was a little upset because he wasn't communicated with before. So Ed's gonna finish doing it because he wasn't, that you should have went to him before you came to me.
No.
That's exactly what you told me.
No, I did say Ed was a little upset because he can be a little bit possessive. He's lived in this village for 23 years.
I don't give a shit who plows. I really don't. That wasn't the issue. It was in the middle. But my thing is, I was in the middle of doing it, and then it's, well, Ed's upset, so now you got to stop. So
no, first of all, I didn't say that. If that's the impression that I gave you, I sincerely apologize because it was not my intent to make you quit doing what you were doing so that Ed could go in and do it and make him and I could make him feel better about it. I'm trying to lessen the load off of my plate by letting somebody that knows what they're doing, that has done it for 23 years, that knows our equipment, that knows the plow, that knows the truck, that knows the streets, that knows everything, to take that job over. And when he can't, then I can struggle and find somebody to do the plowing. That's all I was trying to do. I wasn't trying to step on your toes and make you stop doing. And again, if that's what happened, and it sounds like it did, I apologize for that. But why we're gonna discuss, why we're still discussing it, and then there's the issue of your insurance. If you want to plow, you need to turn that into Gloria. I shouldn't have, had I known that, you wouldn't have been plowing in the first place, because I'm not, again, this is essentially volunteer stuff. I don't want to get in trouble for you hitting something because of no insurance, because I didn't see, because I didn't ask you. So get that corrected first. If there's any reason that we need to keep discussing this, please speak up. Yes, ma'am.
The only thoughts I have about it is, if somebody's gonna volunteer to do it, I'm assuming they should be trained and learn how to do the village equipment. And then there shouldn't be all of this
I agree.
problem.
I agree with that.
And if Ed is the head dog, so to speak, first to come do the plowing or whatever, and he can't do it, then he can call whomever's on the list that's been trained, that knows how to do the equipment. And in accordance with the ordinance, I'm sure that individual, it says in the ordinance that if you are the person that assumes that responsibility, your responsibility for the maintenance of the equipment, even though it's the village equipment you're using.
I agree, and
that's another problem.
That's a very good point, but the issue is that, not the issue, but it's snowing to beat hell. He calls
Well,
me,
I understand
say, "Go
that, and I
plow."
don't think anybody intentionally would do that, but I can personally vouch in the past, someone who ran that, who thought he knew how to run it, we had to pay for 2 garage doors and some other equipment.
Sure, I understand. I have confidence that Dave knows what he's doing.
I'm not saying anything about anybody, I'm just saying that's a situation that could
Sure.
occur.
Well, at any rate, Ed's doing the plowing. I asked him to do it. I apologize. Now it's a little bit clearer to me that you felt like you were pulled off of something so that an older time resident could come in and do it. So I do apologize for that. That's not the way that I intended it to go. I'm just trying to lighten the load for myself and have something work seamlessly that I don't have to put much thought into, especially when the 2 or 3 times that we have to plow during the year occurs. I didn't feel it was as large an issue as Jared brought up, and I took offense at that, and I apologize for,
I have a question. He went through the alley and took the, what do you call it, in the middle? He flattened it out.
It's called the crest from the alley.
The crest, and
Who
David did that.
David?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's another issue,
and
and
now we got potholes everywhere in the alley.
again, just to let you know,
I gotta go home, I got a water leak.
oh, jeez,
I'll
okay,
be back as soon as I can.
okay.
I'll come back up.
All right. Okay, so again, let's try to bring it back to center. Thank you. If you can hold questions till a little bit later, we really got to keep moving. But I appreciate your input, and I do want to hear everybody if you've got problems or questions, but we got to keep it going. So moving on. I had an issue with some rock placed on the village easement behind, that runs behind between Jared and Bobby's house. I came home Thursday, found that rock had been placed in the ditch on one end and rock on the other end. I asked who did that. Apparently, Jared had asked Kevin, is Kevin his name, from CNS Construction to
Yes, I think that's the same.
to dump rock there. So I contacted Kevin. I said, did Mr. Holmes ask you to put this rock there because it's not supposed to be there? He said yes. I feel that two things I have an issue with. I don't feel that it was your place to make a decision to put rock there. That's my...
Go ahead and finish, but I want to speak on that too.
Okay.
I think in my point of view.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't feel that it was a board member's job to make a determination to make a right-of-way a through alley for what could be construed as your personal benefit with your trailer and your trucks going through there, etc. That was the first issue I had with it, and I believe that's a legitimate issue. The second issue, and most important issue, is that CNS Construction is the contractor that's doing our water main project. The money that they get paid for doing that work comes from the federal government and is administered by the state. So by pulling them off of their job to go and do what I perceive as a personal project for however many minutes it took them, an hour or whatever, I felt like we could possibly get into a little bit of trouble for that, or it could be construed as maybe something that it's not. I don't think that was your intent, but I have a problem with it, and I would like to have that rock removed and that alley easement put back the way that it was prior to Thursday. I don't think that needs to be there. I have my own opinions as to why you did that, but they're not relevant at this meeting, so I'm asking the board to either A, ask CNS Construction to pick up that rock and put it back where it came from. There wasn't rock there before, and there doesn't need to be rock there now. And two, I'm asking the board to, decide on who's going to do that. CNS didn't do anything wrong. They're trying to make people happy. There's a lot of mess in town, if you haven't noticed.
They're nice people.
It's a huge mess, right?
No, they're nice people.
They are, they're great people, but that's the thing. They don't want to make anyone upset, and
Right.
they will do anything you ask them to do in the interest of keeping the peace, because they know that it can be kind of
One day
a
it's raining
tough
in
thing.
here,
So
it's raining from the house here, so.
when Jared asked them to do that, they jumped all over it and did it. My point is I don't think that Jared had the right to do that, and I'm asking the board to vote to have that rock removed and put back where it belongs. Jared.
Okay, so the last meeting I asked if we could put some rock down because when CNS put the water main, they left a hill of dirt pretty high so that if the dirt was to settle, it would basically create a dip and you'd basically be hitting a rut in the ground. So I went up to CNS and I asked them if they could come over and try to level the dirt. Just level the dirt is all I wanted. I didn't say anything about no rock. They put the rock down themselves when I came back. He said, don't worry about it, I'll go get some rock and put it down. I said, you better ask the board first, because I've been asking for rock the last couple of meetings, and they will not let me put any rock down this alley. So you're gonna cause a lot of problems if you put rock down. I said, I better question it first. When I came back after a couple of hours, there was rock down there, and it was not requested by me. All I wanted was level. Because at the time way it is now, all I can do is if I go down the alley, I have to turn around and mark Brooker's yard, get in his yard, run up his backyard of his rental property there that his daughter owns, because I can't go out the other way because it's turning up the front end of my car. And I tore up my trailer too as well.
That is 100% opposite from what I was told by Kevin with CNS Construction.
Exactly that. I didn't ask for no rock.
Irrelevant. I'm not gonna pick on you or anybody else about it. I need the board to decide to either leave the rock as it is or get it moved.
Could I have a statement, please?
Yes, ma'am.
In the very beginning, we were told that we weren't to touch any of that stuff from the engineers till they were finished with that project. If there was grass, then they went across it and dug it up. When it was applicable to do that, they would come back and lower it down, reseed the grass.
Correct.
If it was somebody's driveway that already had rock on it or whatever, when they had to go across that, they would put the rock on there so the person could get back out of it. To keep from complaining about people who had asphalt or cement, they went, drilled underneath their driveways.
Right.
So that, not to cause a problem.
Sure.
And everybody was told that.
Right.
I swear to God, I didn't ask for any rock. He suggested to use rock, but I told him not to do it.
Okay, well,
So if you want to dig it up, dig it up. I mean, it really doesn't.
that's not my decision. That's the board's decision. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, Dave?
I have a question. What's any different than rock being there than her putting rock down on her own without the board's approval in her alley?
Because there's already rock there. And Billy Brocade decided to do it for free, number one. And number two, I asked her to do some of that stuff and to start the beginning and getting those alleys quoted. So we can use some of our motor fuel money to get all of the alleys done.
Well, I agree, all the alleys, but it was her personal project. I'm not defending him. That's not where it's going, but my
And if
question
it was
is-
her personal project, that's between her and Billy Brocade.
Okay, so if he puts, what if he dumps his own rock there?
He can't. Not on the village easement where there's no rock. That is not to be a drive-through. Nobody here has decided to make that a drive-through. As a matter of fact, we've talked about that and wanted to keep it not a drive-through. My issue, whether this is true or not, Jared, I'm not accusing you of anything, but it is my opinion that the only reason that there is rock there today is because so you can run your truck and trailer back there for your business.
I was doing that if there was any rock there. I put my trailer back there.
Right, which you shouldn't be doing.
Why?
If you want, I mean, we can keep going about this and then we can bring into your, before, this is all about being petty. I'm not trying to be petty about your trailer being back there or your shed being on city property or any of that stuff. But you're doing things, in my opinion, to instigate, to be malicious, to be as difficult as possible, and you're dragging me, my wife, Ralph, Joanne, everybody into that. And that's not what we're here for, Jared. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to fight with you. I want to be on good terms with everybody. But that rock does not belong there. And when that happens, it makes me think, automatically, it makes me think that was part of your personal pet project to do it, and that you had no right, none whatsoever, to even interact with that company and
It
pull
was
them off of
recommended
a...
by Rosie. She's a board member. She said, go up to CNS and ask them if they can do anything to help you. So I did, and he helped
They
me out.
can if it's, they can.
They're
but
here
not
to
there
do
when
water
it's your
mains.
driveway that they tore up.
They're
I did
here,
not know that you were concerned about the easement.
they're here to do the water main project, not to fill in dirt and gravel in a ditch so that you can drive through the easement, period. That's my problem, and it looks bad, and I don't like it. So that's why I want to have it picked
But
up.
there's rock on the other end.
There is now.
There was before. I didn't have to put rock there.
Now
That's all right
it's spilling into my yard.
That was done when they put the water line in.
So, it's a simple question. I don't think the rock needs to be there. I would like to have it removed. If it doesn't, if you guys want it to stay, then let it stay. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can I get a copy of the agenda, please?
I'm sorry?
A copy of the agenda?
Absolutely. Lord, you have an extra copy of the agenda?
No.
Or you can,
Well,
Actually, I've scribbled.
I'd say you can have mine, but I'm not done with it
just
yet.
let me take a picture. I just want to see if loading on getting rid of that rock is on the agenda.
One in the window.
May I say something, Josh?
Specifically, John, it says.
It is on the
removal of
agenda,
rock
hon.
Placed in alley not previously marked.
All right, that's what I was checking for.
I would just like to make a statement for everybody present.
Yes.
Years ago, and I'm talking about back in the 50s, when this determination was made, what alley gets gravelled, what alley does not. There are several alleys in this town that have never been gravelled, and the reason they were not gravelled is because the board approved that they would never be done.
Right.
Mostly because nobody had a garage that was backing out of there that they had to use that for, and there was no sense for us to do that, plus the issue with the garbage truck tearing up the alleys.
I agree. I guess if somehow that needed to change at a future date, then that's again up to the board, and that's things that can change.
Well, I was just wanting
For
to...
the purposes of this meeting, I just need to understand and need to know, do you guys want the rock to remain there or to be moved? Because if it stays there, we're gonna have traffic through there. That's the problem. And it's not an alley for traffic to go through. Yes, sir.
Hey Josh, when you talk CNS out in front of my house,
Yes, sir.
the city came through there and put a damn ditch there.
Mhm.
And I don't like the ditch there.
How long ago was this?
About 15 years ago.
Okay.
Anyhow, there was a tile through there. Well, instead of putting the tile in, they decided to just take a ditch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that ditch is a hazard. That's where I park out front.
In front of your house, sir?
Right.
Okay.
And I got a handicap sticker. My balance is out. And when they come down there to do that water main,
Mm-hmm.
that water main is gonna be dug right where my truck parks
Mm-hmm.
and across her drive. But when they do that, I want that dirt that's left over,
Mm-hmm.
I want that ditch gone. I want to level it out the way it was before.
Can we, this is not something we can really discuss right now. We're already,
No, but I just thought you could bring it up.
but absolutely, yeah, if you want to call me tomorrow or sometime and show me physically what you're talking about, that way I have a better idea. I can present it to the board and they can look
Well, I
at it.
know when they dug out, they put a new water line from the meter out to the main,
Yes, sir?
and the main is right there, just about on top of the alley.
Okay.
That's where the telephone goes at. So they're gonna be digging through there anyhow, but I don't care about Gary Holstall. I want his ditch, but I don't want it, because the water comes down in mine and just stays there,
Well,
because that ditch ain't dug deep enough around by Daryl's to go down to.
well, there again, call me tomorrow. It's not anything we can really take up tonight.
No, but I mean, if they're gonna do it, just mention to them that.
I understand. Call me tomorrow. I get off at 3:30. I'll go down there, we'll take a look at it, and I'll have a better idea of what you're asking me to do. And I'll present that to the rest of the board next month, okay? Thank you. So again, we want to keep the rock there, or do we want to get it moved? I need to know.
I make a motion to take the rocks out of there.
Somebody has a second.
What harm is it if you leave it there?
It's not a through alley.
We're concerned that it'll turn into a drive-through type alley issue.
It's an easement. There's not a.
No, only Bobby has a garage back there.
Places to get access.
It was put up in '85 when Jack retired from the state police force. That's what
Right, but I don't think
the-
any of the other neighbors have a garage back there.
No, and I maybe go down that with my car once a year, maybe not once every 2 years.
That's what I'm saying, it's not an alley per se, it's more of an
It's
easement.
supposed to be an easement. Accessibility.
I'll second removal, okay?
Thank you,
I
Jerry.
don't really care if I have the rocks there, just dig it up.
That's the,
Okay.
that's the spirit.
And then when I turn around and mark yard, he's the one that's gonna be great.
When what?
When I turn around and mark Broker's yard because I can't get out the other end, he's gonna be yelling.
We have a second.
Not his.
We need to roll call that? Is that how, do we need to roll call that?
I don't think it has anything to do with money, does it?
No.
Every motion for free.
I'm gonna have to, no, well, no, technically, yes. CNS construction.
What the hell's that there for if you can't hold them?
Guys, can I get just a second?
Supposed to be grass, I guess.
John made a valid point. We are gonna have to pay to have it removed, but CNS construction will do it. They put it there and they will remove it. They're not gonna charge us extra for that.
No, they shouldn't, but they should have put dirt there.
What's that?
Well, they didn't get the alley done.
Right.
I don't wanna pay somebody extra.
They
to go-
should, but I'm just saying that needs to be refilled with dirt from CNS.
Let me talk to Kevin, and it's as simple as he's gonna have one of his guys come and take out the rock, period, and that's it. I'm not gonna pay Ralph or
I can help you with that. I can talk to Kevin tomorrow.
Russ, and thank you. I'm not gonna pay anybody to go do that. They did it and they can undo it. So, yes ma'am.
The only thing I gotta say is you can't put dirt, rock, whatever you're gonna put in that ditch because it's gonna plug up the water.
No, we're not putting anything in the ditch. It just needs to be back to a ditch.
Right.
Needs to go back the way it was.
So if you put a, just by chance, if you put a culvert there, why would it cause a problem if you put a culvert there and rock on top of it? It's still gonna drain like it
I don't wanna get into construction where there was no construction before. You wanna talk about wasting money?
It's just, we have culverts, we have rock over here.
Yeah, but was there a culvert there?
No,
There was not.
Okay.
Yeah, keep
There
the
wasn't,
water
right?
flowing.
no,
Okay.
culverts are pretty expensive.
We got several sitting over here next to this rock pile.
But they're not ours, they belong to the township.
I'll go buy a culvert if somebody's worried about the cost of it. I mean, I'd be happy to buy a culvert.
Well, then, why don't you ask that be added to April's agenda, and then the board can vote if they want to put a culvert there and do construction on the ditch.
All right, let's bring it to the next meeting.
That would be a good agenda to bring up.
Again, that's counter to,
Well, I guess we just,
okay,
put this back to the next meeting and just push it to the next agenda and we decide if we can get a culvert to put there. So it keeps everything flowing like it should.
well, the point was that we don't want that to be a through alley. That's why the decision of the rock being removed is there in the first place.
Okay.
So it's a little bit counterproduction to the decision that was just made 2 minutes ago.
That's that question.
Yes, yes, Bobby.
Talking about it being a through alley, years ago, I went to school with Marvin Beck, he was mayor at the time. My sister's car, she went to Florida for 2 months, was in my back garage. She was coming home, Marvin's out plowing the streets. I said, Marvin, can you plow down to there so I can get her car out? No, he said, I can't do that because it's not a through alley. That's been many years ago.
Right.
Well,
So it's not a true alley now? Is that what you're saying, Bobby?
No, it is not a through alley.
It's not an alley,
No.
it's a easement
Okay.
at this point. And apparently it's been that way for the last, what, 40 years?
Longer than
Or
that.
longer.
About 60 years.
Since the town was, since
All right.
the town was built.
built.
let's keep on track here.
I'm just saying, it's an easement, and there's a difference between an easement and an alley.
Rose,
And you are, and he is the neighbor that is using the easement, and none of the other neighbors really need to use it. You know, so yes, it might be a problem for him because he wants to be able to access it.
which is why I questioned the decision in the first place, so. Moving on. That's the only order of business that I have for today. Again, next month, we're gonna have to talk about,
Replacement of the rock pile.
oh, yes, I'm sorry. I skipped one, thank you, Gloria, my apologies. CNS and company, they've been using rock from Billy Brocate's rock pile out here, which is not a problem. That's what it's there for. But we are also have the obligation to replace that, and I would like to replace that before we get asked, because he's nice enough to let us dip into that and use that for our projects that's going on right now. So I need to ask the board to vote to buy a semi of CA6 or whatever that road rock is, to
CA6.
replace that to his pile.
CA6.
Billy Brocate's not one that we don't want on our side, so we want to make sure that we put his rock back after we've used it, and it'll be a minimal
I make a
charge.
motion. I make a motion that we replace the township's gravel pile with one semi-load of gravel,
And
CA6, white rock.
Okay.
I'll give you a second on it.
In addition to, thank you, Ralph, can I get somebody to handle calling Hanson's and getting that
I'll take
coming?
care of it.
They ain't doing it.
They ain't
Hanson
doing it
ain't doing it.
Your Donnie died.
Hanson ain't doing it. Down,
He's
Donnie
on it
died next
forever.
to
Oh, who do we call?
I'll do it. I'll take care of it.
Okay, Mayor will take care of it. Thank you. Just have them,
Do you need a roll call?
We need a roll call. on
what's that?
So you need a roll call?
Yeah, I
right?
think we do. Thank you.
Okay, for replacing the rock with the semi-load of CA6. Gary,
Yep, replace the road.
Ralph,
Yep.
Roseanne,
Yes, replace the rock.
Mary,
Yes, replace the
Jerry.
rock.
Yes.
and Brian.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I got a new question to ask.
Okay.
All the farmers, like Rings Farm down here and a bunch of them, and I drive a semi.
Yes.
They're complaining because there's no restaurant open here and they have to go to Gibson or Paxton.
There's no what?
There's no restaurant open.
Oh, yeah.
And Shields comes up here to buy their lunches. They can't do that no more. They gotta drive clear to Rantoul to get their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanna know why that restaurant ain't open.
Capacity
The
issues.
capacity, the coronavirus.
Yeah, there's no,
Well, yeah, but it can be open. They walk in, they call in an order, come and get it.
Yeah, take out.
And-
yeah, that's a business decision by the owner. And it comes down to whether or not she wants to pay money to keep the restaurant open or make money. And
Well,
I can
And
certainly.
where's her lease at for that?
What's that?
Where's her lease agreement on that at?
Gloria's got it.
We have
Well,
never
but
seen
it-
that, the board's not seen that either. That has never been presented to the board members.
Okay.
So how's come,
And actually,
you paying her water and her lights and all that?
That's in the village lease. That's been in the village lease for 20+ years.
No,
Gas
No.
only. She pays the electric and there is no water bill because it is the whole building.
That's
Well,
not,
where's her checks paying for it then?
yeah, that's.
To
She
show
pays her
up?
rent,
Huh?
she pays her rent, she pays her insurance, and she
You
pays
don't
her
show
electric
that on
bill.
there, she's paying anything.
She's got dozens of checks going back to May of
That's,
last year. with
we have her rent checks.
Rent payments.
So what is the rent, since we've never actually seen the legal binding lease?
The rent check is
But the actual rent, what she should be paying, nobody's agreed on the rent, how much she should be paying. 'Cause we've never been
it's
presented.
in the lease.
We've never seen it, why can't you present this to the
These
board?
are the things,
These
hold on a
stuff we wanna
second.
put on the agenda, you don't speak.
That's right, that's right. We
So we're talking
can,
about
we can put these on the
Yeah.
agenda.
But we like to
So here's the deal though. The reason that I didn't add your agenda items to begin with are because these are things that you, yourself, as well as every member of this board has voted on. Hold on. In June of last year, it appears in the minutes that the board voted to lease the cafe. In the lease, it states $100 a month. And that is the rent that she's paid. That's the rent that every person who's ever leased that cafe has paid, going back as far as Becky Falk 20 years ago when I moved here. That's never changed.
So that's all Triple H paid?
I'm sorry?
Triple H when they opened it?
That's absolutely right. Nothing in that lease has changed. I'll be happy to give you a copy of the lease, that's not an issue. But,
Why can't you show it to us? We've never seen it.
okay, Lori, good. The issue that I had, and I think the reason that you're frustrated with me is,
I'm frustrated, I'm just trying to figure out.
no, I think it's a little bit more than that, Jared. I think it's a little bit more than
We are
that.
best friends.
I'm sorry?
We're friends, I mean,
I
I'm trying
can-
to make friends with
I get the
everybody else.
sarcasm.
It's not sarcasm.
When,
I'm trying
when you and
to-
I, hold on a second, this is what I did not want to happen. So, but okay, if you want to open that up, we can do that. After you and I had our argument about the snow plowing, you texted the board multiple times asking to talk about, demanding actually, to discuss
Put stuff on
the
this.
rent for the cafe, a number of things, the sale of the village property to Ralph Earhart,
Yes, yes.
Um,
Legal binding.
yes, the legally binding one that we did through our attorney, who wrote up a deed, had it notarized.
And yet
Everything's in order.
Nobody's seen the deed, nobody's seen the
Well,
notice.
it's right here. You
So
want to
you got it
see,
there, but nobody's seen it. Have you, any board member seen the legal binding board? Have you seen, no, because it's never presented to the
I
board.
believe Joanne's seen
I
it.
mean, the
She
board
was
members,
part of that.
agreed and they voted on it, they said yes, but we never seen it.
So let me finish. So you wanted to bring that up. You wanted to bring the fact that Ralph gets paid for reading meters. You wanted to bring that up. You called out Joanne for having a, supposedly an old financial statement on the window. Nobody responded to your texts at all, and I think that made you mad. And that's why I think you kept adding different things. Here's the thing. You sat in that chair as a board member and voted on every single one of these items, and it is in every single minutes that we have going back for a year. So, as the chairman and the moderator of the meetings, and by the way, if you guys haven't read Robert's Rules of Order, you probably ought to, because it's very helpful, and that's what we use as a guideline to conduct our meetings. And again, I wasn't going to bring any of this stuff up, but since it's coming up now, Robert's Rules of Order states that no individual board member can dictate what gets thrown onto the agenda. So Mary can't call me and give me a laundry list of 20 things that she wants to talk about. And sometimes they'll make it on the agenda, sometimes not. However, you can absolutely take a point of personal privilege, like you're doing now, and complain about things that you don't like. And you can also appeal to the board to have your agenda items added to a subsequent meeting. But you cannot demand
Okay.
that it be added to an agenda like tonight's agenda.
Okay, so-
So that's the first thing.
Alright.
The second thing is, when I talked about trying to do the right thing and be upstanding citizens and do things for the greater good of the community, you have the right to do those things. You have the right to bring those issues up. And however it might appear to me it appears like you're just being malicious. You may have the greatest of intents, and that's fine. But again, by trying to make us discuss things that have already been talked about, you vote on Ralph's paycheck every month when the bills come around for him reading meters. That's the first thing, if you want to talk about that. Secondly, we have a severe shortage. I don't know if you've noticed there is a severe shortage of people that are willing to do certain jobs around town.
All you gotta do is advertise, you don't advertise.
All you have to do is advertise. Isn't that easy?
Yes.
Let me remind you that everybody, again here, works full-time, one job, two jobs, whatever. There's a limited amount of time that we have to conduct this business. Secondly, for the last 20 years, members of this board
I've been paid.
have been paid to plow the street, to mow the park, to do this, to do that. Third, this is number 3. He fills out his economic interest form every single year and discloses the amount that he makes, gives it to Gloria, at which time Gloria sends that to Amy Fredericks at the Ford County Courthouse. Okay? I understand that you have issues with that. I'm not sure why you're picked on Ralph. As far as you're not just bringing it up. I know what you're doing. But as far as the sale of the property goes to Ralph, you voted in the affirmative as well as Mary. You couldn't vote because that was your deal. You weren't here. I think it was Ed Godsey that was here. Roseanne, Gary, and yourself voted yes, we want to sell that parcel of land to Ralph Earhart for $1,000. At which point I went to our attorney, said, here's what the board wants to do. We had to actually have 2 meetings about this because the minutes weren't clear enough the first time, and it did not detail the sub-parcels within that lot per Ellen Lee's request. So we actually had to vote on it 2 times, and you voted yes a second time. Ellen Lee drafted the paperwork, had it notarized, it was signed, and the transaction occurred between Ralph and our treasurer. It's not going to wait until the next meeting because he had to get it done before the prior tax year, December 31st. That's why it didn't come up. So that's that issue. As far as the cafe rent, again, going back in the minutes, the entire board agreed to lease the cafe to her.
And Judy?
Yes, in May, or June rather, of last year. Okay? That's in the minutes. You voted on it, you voted on it, you voted on it, you didn't vote on it, and you voted on it, and you voted in the affirmative. So when you bring up things to me, 4 or 5 different things that have been voted on in the affirmative because you're mad at me. This is my perception. This may not be true, but I feel like that's why it was done. I'm not going to waste, Mary,
Excuse me.
I just wondered if there was conflict of interest. I mean, I know Mary's brought it up several times and she thought it was.
then why did you guys vote on it? That's the first
Because you
thing.
told us it was legal and binding, we talked to the attorney, and it was all good.
That's right.
Everything's all right.
That's right.
We're doing everything right.
That's
That's
right.
what you presented to us, so we all said, yes, let's go ahead and do it.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right.
But yet we still
I
haven't
didn't
seen a
add
lease.
your items to the agenda this month because I thought it was frivolous and that your intent was less than honorable. If you want to push those 4 agenda items further, you need to clear that with the board and then they can add that to a subsequent agenda. April's, or what's next month? April's agenda. Give me just a second. We can absolutely talk about it. My job is not to make you guys be quiet and not talk about things that need to be talked about, but at the same time, what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we gonna fight? Or are we gonna try to get stuff done in the town? And that, to me, my opinion is irrelevant when it comes to that. The fact of the matter is, if you want to discuss, you need to clear that through the board.
How do you do that? By asking them?
She got 2 calls. Nancy at the Ford County Health Department got 2 calls from you.
No, it wasn't me. I know who called them, but it wasn't me.
Okay, saying that that the tenant didn't have proper licenses or health certificates, which is a lie. That was a little bit suspicious to me.
That was not me, but I know who they called.
Our attorney was called by you multiple times.
One time. Well, I called one time.
Okay, that's not what she said. You might want to talk to her about that.
Well, I hope she has.
Asking her to be here, to which she called me. I cannot take orders from a board member and appear to a meeting just because he wants me to. Please have that discussion with him.
Yeah.
If the rest of the board wants our attorney present at any given meeting, they can do that. It's not up to you as a single board member.
I see.
You can't do it. I don't want to, this is ridiculous. It's not productive. And it doesn't do anything but waste everybody's time and doesn't get us anywhere. We have actual issues to discuss and things that really need to get done. So again, if you want to push it, please present it to the board. Otherwise, we need to move on. And if you want documents, Mr. John's already requested documents, which I've agreed to give him in a timely manner as I possibly can, which is going to cause further issues. And these are all things that came from you, Jared. From you.
Hey, I'm just trying to make
No,
sure it's done legal and binding.
Is it? Is that the real reason? Because I question that. I really question that.
That's exactly the only reason why.
So, I'm gonna send John the information that he needs as soon as I can possibly get it
So you're not gonna
compiled.
let the board see the lease?
Yeah, they can see do you have that here?
There's a copy of the lease, that is the exact lease she signed.
What's
That
that?
is the last time that it was written up. The lease goes back to when Mike Davis was the clerk.
That's a copy
Farther
of
than that, I
the,
have copies of other people's leases in here, Hennessy's, Falk's, whoever else was in here. It's the same lease.
again, this is why I didn't add those items to the agenda, because now we're at 8:30 and we're all sitting here talking about it. 7:30, sorry.
You're doing daylight savings time.
Oh,
Go for it.
these are, it's not on the agenda, so we're not gonna talk about it. We can talk about it next meeting if the board decides to add it on there, or if you wanna let it go. That's up to you. That's your right as a board. You can talk about whatever you want. Yes, sir.
Well, I got one coming up. As the board is here and you're here, if somebody comes up and tells you they want this done over here, and you can't give them the okay, you gotta write it down and bring it to the board meeting. You cannot make decisions in this city without the board approving.
You're right.
And I don't give a, if it means putting a shitter across the street, you gotta come to the board to have them put one up over there.
Sure.
You just can't have somebody deliver it.
Sure, absolutely. But just to be clear, there are decisions that have to be made in the interim. It's like the snow plowing, for example, that can't wait for a board meeting. There's certain decisions that have to be made in regard to the construction of the water main project that can't wait until a board meeting, unless there's an emergency meeting or something involved. But yeah, absolutely. I absolutely think you're right. You think I want to go around making decisions and getting myself in trouble?
Well, there has been decisions made that hasn't been done by the board. I ain't gonna bring them up because I ain't got time for this shit.
Okay.
You know, it's crap. I earned my freedom. I went and fought and did you go anywhere and fight? No. You know, you told me you were gonna kick me out of the meeting the last time I was here.
Well, you were cursing up a storm and getting pretty out of hand.
Who voted you as a mayor? None of these people did. Russell appointed you.
Yes,
If
sir.
they want you out as a mayor, now all I have to do is raise your hand and you're out of here.
That's
The board
right.
can do that tonight.
Yes, sir.
If they don't want you here, they can get you out of here.
Yes, sir.
The election's April 6th.
I don't care about the April 6th. Tonight, if they vote to get him out, he's gone. He don't have to wait for the meeting. He don't have to wait to be voted in. This board can vote him out because he was appointed by Russell. And Russell is nothing. He is nobody. And that's how it stands. The board has the right to decide who's the mayor here. If there's no election up yet, they can vote a member in as a mayor. They could vote David tonight to be the mayor and he has to go. And you better read your programs because that's the honest truth. Read your
He
ordinances and
was
see.
voted in
He was not voted in. Russell appointed him.
by Russell and approved by the board.
Well, the board can vote him out at any time. And they can vote you out at any time.
That every tenant that leaves the cafe gets.
Because you guys are running this,
Guys.
you guys are running this town like a
Rosie, Jared,
mule factory around
too
here.
many people talking at one time.
And I go over there and get rock off that pile because he told me I could come over there and get it.
Who did?
Brocade.
Okay,
We called him ourselves,
okay,
and we did talk to him.
okay, good, that's fine.
So I'm waiting for somebody to turn me in for going over there and getting rocks. And he told me I did what I wanted.
Nobody's arguing with you.
So if this is still a problem, he still has a problem. This is not the lease that Angie's got her name attached
Where's
to.
the sign?
No, that is a copy of the lease.
Can't do a copy, you have to have an actual sign.
That is a copy of a lease.
So thank you. Call me tomorrow and I'll come check out your ditch problem and we'll.
Well, I'm just not, if they don't fill the ditch in, I got a tractor, I'll fill my ditch in myself.
I don't think you want to do that.
Why not?
Well, if it's the ditch, it's city property.
So it was my city, it was my problem when they took the tile out, why didn't they put the tile back in?
Here's the lease.
City property.
Because they're too damn lazy to do it, so that's one reason. City at home.
All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pass the signed lease around, but I did not have these items on the agenda for a reason. If you guys want to talk about it, we can talk about it and discuss the lease and Ralph and the property and everything else that Jared wants to discuss next month.
No, this is done tonight. I don't wanna hear another word about this damn lease.
Yes, sir.
I fixed that road up
There's
in
no
the
date.
valley.
See, Mary's questioning it too.
Don't worry about it, okay? Just
No, I said
I know,
I fixed it.
but.
let it go.
if this is the lease-
I've had enough of tonight's meeting, so just let it go. We can talk about it later, but he gets out of hand like that, so
No, I'm
If this
saying,
is the lease
nothing
with
to do with
H's
that.
name
No.
on it,
I'm saying where the, I had put my
I could
phone
sign
where I
that
took
to
the picture, sent it
yesterday.
to you. I filled it in and graded out where they dug up.
Oh, okay.
You make a sign at least.
I filled it in with gravel, more
Date it
gravel.
for such a date.
Jared, well, that's going,
You have a date on it?
No.
I have to. Otherwise, we'll have to gain my point, and it doesn't have enough to do with this meeting.
hey, guys, can we have an end to the chatter real quick? We need to wrap this up. Can we just all stop for a second, please? Please? Jared, if you're gonna make a motion for these additional items to be added to the agenda, please do so to the board now. Otherwise, I would like to have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
We have public comment.
Oh, yes, yes, sir.
May 2020. It has a date, man,
Where?
Top of it.
very top,
Oh, what's it say on it?
Third. May
3rd of
2020.
May 2020, that this lease was made.
She's been in there for a while, guys.
So why would there be an issue if she's been asking for it like through the last 3 or 4 meetings?
Who's been asking for it?
Mary has, and every time she asks for it, you shut her down and say, this is not,
I don't recall her
This is
asking for that
irrelevant.
in
and you never present it.
then it
Oh,
needs to
she's
be on
asked
the
several
agenda.
times. Does anybody else
Yeah.
know? Yes,
Yeah, she
just
did a
sitting
couple
here.
times,
She's
yeah.
asked several times. Have you asked for this lease? You're under oath right now. Have you asked for this many times? But you
Yes, I have, and I
Okay.
was told it would be texted to me, and I didn't get it. So what?
Okay, so
Now we have it.
it's
Now,
legit.
that's what I'm saying, this issue's done with me.
So why is it just now being presented?
How many people have eaten their chicken or whatever on Thursday night?
We've already sound quiet. Didn't think it's very good.
What'd she
Oh,
say?
you didn't.
No, it didn't.
Figures.
There's several in town.
What did she
Really
say?
like it.
She's only having takeouts on Thursday night.
I know,
Right.
I know, but they voted it.
All right, board, please, we got some.
I make a motion to end this?
No,
I want to do
we-
a motion first.
We've got some
Stuff to the.
questions.
Oh, we have some questions back
Gentlemen
here?
here.
Yeah, John Pratt, Edgar County Watchdogs.
From the who's watchdog?
Edgar County Watchdogs.
Edgar County Watchdogs, okay.
We work in more than just Edgar County. I was glad to hear the story about several decades ago that somebody would not plow the right of way, and that should be still hold true today with plowing people's private driveways. It's not permitted, and if something is not permitted, you can't do it. And I would ask that you obtain a written legal opinion from your attorney on whether you can pay a board member separate money to read meters, pay another board member separate money to plow snow or anything else. An elected official cannot work for the same public body that they're elected to, or appointed to an elected position of. I mean, it can't happen. I know you've been doing it for 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, but at some point, you gotta start doing things the way they're supposed to be done. If that means getting somebody from Paxton or Gilman to drive down here and read your water, so be it.
Sure.
Or petition the legislature to allow villages of less than 500 people, like you guys are, to permit board members to perform extra tasks for the village, as long as it is listed on their compensation setting resolution 6 months prior to their ending office. I think you could do that, and I think the legislature might pass that.
Sure, sure.
Then you don't have to worry about anybody breaking the text of any laws and people coming in and complaining, because if the legislature changes it, then that's the law. But as it stands now, please get a written opinion from your attorney, or just call the IML and tell them to fax you
Sure.
something.
Yeah, I think we will absolutely do that. I think
Don't
One point that I'd like to bring up is, and thank you for that information, and we absolutely will do that. I don't think there's anybody here that's on this board that is not, and I can say this with absolute certainty, especially you, Mary, that doesn't want to do things the right way. We are all, I was asked to do this, to step in pro tem from the previous mayor, and all of these board members are essentially appointed at least until April.
And I never said people don't have the best intentions, or they're not trying to do things the way things are supposed to be done.
No, I guess what I'm saying is we are all learning, and we want to learn, and we want to do things the right way. So no, I simply was gonna say thank you for the information.
And-
That's the kind of things that we need.
And if you're properly appointed, nobody can remove you from office.
Thank you.
It don't matter if 15 people in here vote. Don't matter if the whole town stands up in front of the building. They can't remove you from office if you're properly appointed to the office.
Thank you.
Same with the trustees. So I don't know where that idea came up from. Just like they can't remove a deputy from office. So that's all I have. Please, I think the IMO would give you free advice. Just call them up and say, hey, send us something that talks about elected village officials employed in the same village they're appointed or elected to.
Sure.
They should get to that in less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then you'll see that you can't do it. That's all I have. Thanks.
Perfect.
Good idea.
Yeah. No.
You have another one.
You got another one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Kirk Allen, I'm with the Watchdog also. If you would, Mayor, if you want to write this statute down, it's 65 ILCS 5/.
I'm sorry.
65 ILCS
Mhm.
5/11-31-1. And that deals with demolition, repair, enclosure, remediation of basically what we would consider dangerous buildings and communities.
Yes, sir.
That whole statute covers the outline of what your powers are and what you can do and how you can actually force payment for that project. That's the law you want to look at.
Oh, wow.
The other provision, I don't know what your relationship is with your fire protection district, but there is a mechanism to actually, if you do acquire those, to use those in a training operation with the fire department, and that eliminates a massive amount of demolition and destruction and hauling off stuff.
I think we approached that once before, but is that subject to local law? Like some villages or towns don't allow that? That was my understanding. I don't know whether that's true or
Well,
not.
I don't know what your ordinances are
Okay.
as far as whether you can or not, but a fire protection district can get a permit. There's a process
Okay.
that they go through EPA and the Historical Society. They have to get a letter that's not a historical piece of property.
Okay.
EPA Air Quality Division issues the permit. Once they submit their application, they issue a permit or deny it within 60 days. We've done that in our community. I'm a local fire chief in my town. We burned several structures in town through that process. So it gives training to the fire departments, it saves a boatload of money, and it gets rid of the problem. That's the goal, is to get rid of the problem.
Right.
So that's one statute that I would definitely encourage you or your attorneys or everybody to read that, because it outlines everything on how that process works. I, as a fire chief, have written letters to landowners. This is a dangerous building. And we outline why, we point to what the provisions are, and they've got so many days to rectify the problem. They don't, then there's steps of how that's turned over to the community, whether it's a village or township, for the steps to basically condemn that property and take ownership of it.
Okay.
There's a way to do it.
I have absolutely no idea. My first thought was call the health department. They did
They
absolutely
won't do
nothing.
anything.
Right.
But that's the statute you need in that regard.
Okay.
In
Perfect.
regards to Robert's Rules of Order, I appreciate you bringing that up, but keep in mind, if you have not formally adopted Robert's Rules of Order, I don't know if you have or not.
It's in our
Did this board adopt?
It's in our ordinance, yes.
Okay, so you've adopted Robert's Rules.
Yeah, I can show you the page.
And you can ask your attorney this, I urge you to ask IMO this. There are things in Robert's Rules of Order that violate the Open Meetings Act. There are provisions in there, the Robert's Rules of Order is designed for the business structure, not for public governments. And there's certain things that they will say, hey, this is the rules, but it contradicts what the Open Meetings Act outlines.
Which is, and I understand that to some degree. What I did do in this case when it comes to adding and removing items from the agenda was confer with the attorney multiple times this week to make sure that, yes, I can not have items on the agenda, but also they can be added to a later agenda if that board member presses
Well,
the
and that's where I go with the Open Meetings Act. This board can discuss anything at any meeting they want. It doesn't have to be on the agenda to discuss it. That's the law. You just can't vote on it unless it's on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's specific in the Open Meetings Act. In regards to what John covered with employees or elected officials getting paid, that statute's your Officers Prohibited Activities Act, and that's in 50 ILCS, and it's actually a felony to do it. So I would urge not accepting any more pay to that, and I think your attorneys will tell you that if they read the statute. That's all I have.
Well, I would've said that, but I didn't want to scare them.
I say that because I don't know.
Why you gotta be such a meanie?
I don't know if you're waiting to get another paycheck, but you've been notified that is a crime to be an elected official and accept employment from the public body that you are a voting member of. It's a violation of the law and you can't do it.
Yep, I knew that. I knew that.
So let me ask just one question before we,
Marvin tried, he could never get paid for doing all the extra stuff that he did, so that's always been there.
yeah. Just one question. When it comes to dragging a meeting on and on and on, which could potentially be a problem, what's to say somebody can't hold a meeting hostage by continuing to discuss irrelevant or petty issues? Let's put it that way.
I think, in all honesty, I think everybody here is adults, and a good, honest, open discussion usually rectifies that. I know there's tension, I know you've got court papers against him, and he's got court papers against you. That's a lot of tension in here. You know, that's a whole separate issue that fuels the situation. We have to be adults about it and put the problem on the table. What are the solutions? Here's the problem, what are the solutions? Where do we go from here? And keep it simple. You can always have somebody try to hijack it as the head of the public body. You hold the gavel. You control the gavel. You're the one that calls rule of order. You're the one that can say, okay, this discussion we've been on this for however many minutes. It's time to move on. Last comment. Any other comment from anybody? And that's just a procedural thing that over time you learn how to do.
Sure.
And just, hey, you got 5 minutes. Anything else you want to say? Anything you want to say? And that's done. That's controlling a meeting, but it has to be done in an open and transparent fashion to where it's not threatening. But every person in here is sitting in an elected position. You have all one vote. Sometimes you have a vote, sometimes you don't, depending on how things go because you're the mayor. Anybody should be able to put something on the agenda because these people represent people in this community. If someone comes to the constituent comes to them and says, hey, could you get this on the agenda to vote for it? They shouldn't have to ask permission from everybody else. When you have to ask permission from another elected official, then you end up with power struggles where 2 or 3 people will control and hijack every one of your meetings forever.
And I don't think there's ever been a point in time where something that one of the board members or anybody in the community for that matter has asked for something to go on the agenda that wasn't.
Yeah, I'm not trying to imply that it was. We've seen some places where.
But there's gotta be
agendas are hijacked.
At some point, there's gotta be a limit. Sorry, your item didn't make it to the agenda for simply time constraint reasons. That was my point. And at that point, the way I understand it, you can push the issue and it can be brought to vote to go on the agenda.
Right, well, action items have to be on the agenda. Discussion, you can have discussion on any meeting at any time about any subject.
Yep, that's the way I understand it.
So that means then, that 3 months ago, I asked about doing a letter saying, inviting, saying when the garbage and when the stuff to the new people. Well, it's still flying out and around.
It is.
So that means then too, that since I brought it up 3 times, which was, it was nice, Rosie thought it was agreeable and stuff, but I didn't call Josh and say, can you put it on the agenda? I just mentioned it like 3 months ago. Does that still, even if it's flying out in the wind and he said, we'll think about it or we'll do this, is that still?
I think me personally, are you asking me?
Yeah.
I think if you as a constituent in the community have something that you want the board to discuss, the first step is come to the meeting and
I did.
presented a public comment. You presented your position, and if you want them to vote on something, ask them, would you please put this on an agenda for a vote? The reason that's important is that may be a very important issue for you.
I think that'd be nice for the community because of new people.
Right.
And they would, that way would say, hey,
But
I
by
got a
putting it
letter
on
from,
for-
yeah, I got a letter from
putting it on
the, people saying, hey, the garbage day is this day, where you burn the leaves or whatever over there, so people would know. And I told Josh 3 times, during 3 months, during the mission, but I just didn't know how to get him to put it on the thing. But he said, well, we'll talk about it. And then, I wasn't there one time and.
That's one of the things, and we do local government accountability classes through American Watchdogs. We train all over the country. In that example, what we would do, if I may, Mayor,
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
we would basically encourage the board, or encourage the citizen to ask the board, would you please put this on the agenda for this purpose? And then if they don't, then that's a lesson all the citizens need to know about, because that's how the board treated a constituent. And the reason we want things voted on is people need to know how their representatives vote. If it's an issue the whole city wants, but the board says no, well, elections have consequences. So the next election, hey, they didn't do what the citizens want, they get thrown out and new people come in. But the more transparency you push for, all your problems will go away, I promise you. You'll go through 6 months of headache, because everybody wants to come in and moan and groan. But once you go through that painful phase, I promise you, you will solve all kinds of problems. You really will.
Yeah, okay.
At least that's what we've seen everywhere we go.
And certain people can't have chickens.
Actually, there's a Supreme Court case on chickens. It's very interesting that I would encourage.
Certain people's got them and we were told you cannot have chickens.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you
They
can.
said you
We were
could.
told we couldn't.
Who told you you couldn't?
It was a while back, first,
Yes, you
when we
can.
moved
They
back
said-
8 years ago. They
There's a
said-
Supreme Court case that actually says you can.
You can, yeah.
Yes, and there's
I was
some
gonna say you
communities
better
that say
get
no,
some
you
stuff.
can't. And that's a case where their local knowledge hasn't caught up with the judicial process.
Yeah.
Because we used to have chickens.
Yeah, you can have chickens.
Oh. Well,
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
know.
My only concern is that if the chickens aren't cleaned up properly or whatever, their manure is toxic and it causes histoplasmosis, which is a disease that gets in your lungs and it will kill you.
I don't want that.
It's true, it's true. You can also get histoplasmosis from bird crap. I worked at Chanute Air Force Base, and the headquarters building where the general lived, or his office and buildings are, had a big tower and stuff on it, and the pigeons were always on it. You couldn't even
And we
walk
used to have
up.
to clean that up when I was stationed there.
I know, you couldn't walk up the steps without stepping in the crap all the time.
Yep.
So they washed it off 2 or 3 times a day.
Yep.
Yeah, I would.
We'll have to get out of it. All right, are there any other questions? If not, then I would like somebody to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn it. To adjourn this meeting.
I'll second it.
Never
Right.
have seen a motion to adjourn fail, that's.
Back when I was a
Yes,
board
for that.
member, I was the first one doing it. I'm like, let's get out of here.
Is everybody all in favor?